And welcome back, fellow American patriots and Minutemen standing at the ready to fight anew for the issues that matter today on this Friday. Here at Blaze Media, your host, Daniel Horowitz, back here to discuss what we can actually do to make a difference. The West Virginia Freedom Caucus. Is that the future? Why am I talking about that? Because if we can't win in a place like West Virginia and implement our policies, where if someone finds a Democrat, they practically call the cops, then we can't win anywhere. But we're not winning there because the Republicans are Democrats. And the point is, our solution cannot be limited to just vote Republican harder. That's not the solution. We all recognize for the last 10 to 20 years that we have a uniparty, but then we go back like a dog returns to its vomit and we ignore primaries, ignore legislative sessions, ignore the red states, ignore what we can do federally, and just say, oh, but the Democrats. Well, I'll tell you this much. The reason we suck in places like West Virginia and 20 other states has nothing to do with the Democrats. In fact, the Democrats couldn't do this on their own. Only Republicans could give the illusion that they're fighting for us. So they're thereby boxing out a legitimate opposition that would naturally arise if the Democrats were doing the same thing. So we're going to be talking to the new chairman of the West Virginia Freedom Caucus, just founded 2 days ago. Very, very excited about that. We've needed it there for forever, especially at a time when West Virginia is being raped, the beauty of the state and its people by the data centers. So we badly need this voice. But let's start off federally. We'll go to the states. What we're doing is not working. I warned you that Democrats would have the natural advantage in this shutdown. DHS is going to shut down. And now Democrats could shut it down indefinitely because Republicans already gave them the keys to the castle by giving them extra funding for every other department. So now there's no collateral damage to Democrats holding up funding. And now the contours of debate are not over making the DHS bill stronger, it's to make it weaker. How many demands of the Democrats will Trump give into? So now we're going to see, will they actually force a talking filibuster? I doubt it. And by the way, Trump pulled out all of the National Guard from all blue cities and then immigration enforcement operations from Minneapolis. So now they've agreed basically nothing but criminal aliens. So now the fact that Trump attempted half-heartedly to implement mass deportations makes us worse off than having been weak on the issue from day one, because now it taints it. And now you've accomplished nothing. And now we can't do it in the future. And by the way, it shows you the power of Democrats in a state like Minneapolis, or like Minnesota, city like Minneapolis. This is what they're able to do. They're able to completely fight off the feds. Yet you and I both know Democrats are likely to take over Congress and then the presidency 2 years later. Do we have states that will fight for us the same way Democrats fought for illegal aliens? Not at this point. Not if we keep ignoring primaries and not forming and empowering state freedom caucuses and people like that to at least do something new. If not a new party, at least a new brand of the Republican Party, because what we're doing right now is simply not working. Vote Republican harder in a general election when you're going to get crushed anyway. And in the states where you're not going to get crushed by Democrats, the Republicans are the Democrats. That is simply not working. So I want to get to a couple of good news stories before we go on. First, just a programming note. With Valentine's Day coming over the weekend, a lot of people are probably looking for flowers, candy, chocolate, jewelry. How about this as a gift to share with your wife or significant other in your life? Share the Arrows 2026. I know we just had the event, although it's been a couple months now. October 10th is going to be the next event with Allie Beth Stuckey, thousands of Christian women coming together for biblical teaching, fellowship, and worship. If you want to meet other women that are actually biblically feminine and not a bunch of weirdos and believe in God, well, this is the perfect opportunity. My colleague Allie Beth does doing this every year now. So purchase tickets. Early bird tickets are available right now to treat yourself and share the Arrows event. So again, if your husband doesn't buy it for you, then you could buy it for yourself, but it would make a great gift. Okay, let's go on here. We don't have much time. I want to do free for all Friday. Get to a bunch of different stories here. Indiana. Indiana is a similar state to West Virginia. So HB 1210. Right now, Indiana cities and towns enjoy the regulatory authority to stop foreign investors, institutional capital from outbidding locals and purchasing all our homes. And this is really a big theme today, folks. All we have, you and I don't have any control over anything, but we have red state land. Red states control the most scarce commodity, the one thing God does not create more of, and that is land. And we have this multi-frontal assault on land, on farms, on ranches, from the data centers, from the corporate buyers, from foreign buyers, from green energy, carbon capture. And the Republicans, by and large, in almost all of these states, except for really DeSantis in Florida, they are more enthusiastic to rape the red state land than even the Democrats are. They're giving away the one commodity we have, the one point of leverage that conservatives in America have against the globalists, misusing that land. So HB 1210 in Indiana would basically strip localities from their ability to regulate this transformation. They're really targeting cities like Carmel. They've made such regulations. And it's just amazing to watch this, that, you know, they're trying to block local control over data centers, over zoning, over Section 8 housing. This is all the assault. But then suddenly, when it comes to trying to pass 287G and things like that, then the rhinos will say, well, Daniel, the local sheriffs don't like it. Isn't that interesting? We saw the same thing during COVID when it came to vaccine shutdown mandates and business mandates and 6 feet and the mask. Well, Daniel, I don't agree with it, but I don't like telling locals what to do. Oh, yeah. But then when it comes to shoving Section 8 housing, data centers, green energy upon local neighborhoods, then suddenly, yeah, we need to strip their authority. So it's all outcomes based. And this is what we're seeing with the multi-frontal assault on our land. One other story before we get to West Virginia and our special guest. I got to say this, going back to Florida. So we're trying to get the 20 other solid red states to be like Florida and build upon that. Yet, as I've been warning, if nothing changes, we're actually going to go backwards and lose Florida. So the lead candidate, endorsed by Trump, for reasons only Allah knows, although I do know the reasons. So first of all, he cast 2 illegal votes in the Congress. Now he's never there, so he had his colleagues cast votes for him. It's a story at Punch Bowl, but the more serious story is this. So here's the game that candidates like this play. They're not going to run on, I oppose DeSantis because I don't want to get rid of property taxes. I don't want to block our state from becoming a doormat for big tech and data centers in the surveillance state. I don't want street-level immigration enforcement. I don't want to end all vaccine mandates. He's never going to run on that. Oh, I want our state to be saturated with marijuana on every street corner. He's not going to run on that. But here's the deal. The legislature is fighting Governor DeSantis tooth and nail on every one of those issues, by the way. Now, thank God they blocked the ballot initiatives, but no thanks to the legislature, DeSantis had to grab them kicking and screaming into that. But yet, all the special interests that are on the side of the House leadership and against DeSantis are backing Byron. So what do they know that we don't know? This is from NBC. A pro-artificial intelligence PAC is preparing to spend about $5 million, that's serious cash, to help Byron Donalds campaign for governor as Republicans in the state participate in a protracted fight over AI legislation backed by Governor DeSantis but opposed by the industry. A pro-AI super PAC is preparing to spend this money. And they note that Byron is the first candidate they're supporting. Meanwhile, the legislature is in a heated fight over this package championed by DeSantis. So that tells you that they know where Byron is. See, what do you and I believe? We're like, wait a minute. Florida could even be better. It's being held back by that jerk-off, Perez, the speaker. So we need a speaker and more House members like DeSantis. Well, what they're trying to do is get a governor to match the perfidy of the House. And then we're going to lose our only state we have. And folks, I'm telling you, Democrats are going to win federally. We need red states as refugees for ordered liberty, for quality of life, for land usage, land, God, gold, currency, all these bills that we want to pass. I have about 150 priorities I'm working on in red states, and I will tell you, like 80 to 90% of them we can't get passed. Super majorities, because we have no conservatives left. So this leads me to our next guest. Folks, West Virginia is the perfect control group on the theory that we don't have enough Republicans, that it's the slim majority, the filibuster, that's why Republicans can't do anything useful in Washington. Okay, well, what if I told you I would give you a 90 to 9 and 32 to 2 majorities bicamerally in the House and Senate respectively, and then every state official is a Republican? Well, you tell me, man, Daniel, we'd have transactional gold. Illegal aliens would essentially not be able to function. The state would have to leave. Social conservatism. We would be able to pass DeSantis's bills to make sure that data centers don't get any special favors and special rezoning unnaturally of our land. Fourth Amendment rights on the surveillance that they're doing. Nope. States like that are leading the charge on turning the state into data centers. By the way, folks, I saw a heartbreaking article in Politico today on Prince William County, Virginia, about how it is so bad there, the amount of land of that county that's taken over, the noise, and then they say residents are split on data centers. But then if you read it, they're not split. The ones that support it are like, heck, I'll earn millions of dollars selling my land because I'm out of here. I can't live here. Everyone agrees you can't live there. So now they're like, hey, this is so great in Virginia. Think about it. Virginia was taken over. Oh, wow. I'm so happy I live in West Virginia. No, now the Republicans in West Virginia want to turn West Virginia into Virginia while also serving as the big tech bitch for Virginia by having all the transmission lines, like my home state is doing in Maryland, to go to Virginia. And by the way, like, I would love to live in West Virginia. That's the adjacent state. But I told you guys this during COVID. The West Virginia Republican governor, who's now senator at the time, his mandates on COVID were worse than Maryland. So what am I going to move for? Slightly better gun laws? You know, this is the reality. So I don't want to hear this nonsense of we don't have enough Republicans. We need to be able to put on a new jersey and distinguish ourselves from their perfidy so they can't use the Republican name to then turn around and do everything that our voters don't want. That if the Democrats would do it, they'd get slaughtered, except now they won't because people think they got rid of the Democrats, so they're just complacent. We got to build up this fortress. And that's why I'm really excited about the new announcement of the West Virginia Freedom Caucus, and our next guest, Delegate Chris Anders, who is the new chairman of the Freedom Caucus bicamerally. It's a House and Senate to try to get us on the map. 91 Republicans in the House, but very few conservatives. You got to start from somewhere, and Chris is taking up that mantle. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for joining us on short notice here at the Blaze, and congratulations on your new Freedom Caucus.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Daniel. You really hit the nail on the head. You truly did with explaining what's actually happening in West Virginia. Too many people just hide behind the Republican Party label, but then vote like undocumented Democrats, and that has to stop. And that's why primaries have to be great again.
Be honest with me. 90-9, 32-2. How many Republicans, being liberal in your methodology, how many Republicans are actually conservative?
I would say probably 20 to 25 in the House and probably around 16 to 17 in the state Senate. The state Senate, which is an outlier when you look at most states, is more conservative than the House is. So the 2026 cycle is all about taking over the House and holding the state Senate so that real conservative change can be done, because voters don't elect overwhelmingly Republicans just end up with a lighter shade of blue. And they certainly don't elect Republicans to govern just like the Democrats have for almost our entire state history. So it's time to actually get real constitutional conservative people who are there to fight for your life, individual liberty, your private property rights, and to make West Virginia a shining light for freedom.
No, exactly. I think that's a really good point. This is why primaries are so much more important than the general, particularly in this election. The economy is bad. The incumbents are going to be voted out. The die is cast. They're going to lose the purple areas. It's not good. Frankly, Republicans are doing nothing. President Trump just said he's not for another budget reconciliation bill. He's done everything he wants to do in 4 years. Again, I'm not here to debate that. I'm just saying that's what he said. So the value add is not really there, nor do I think we can win. Where is the value add in places where Democrats can't win, but we have the undocumented Democrats? So I want to get through some of those issues. I know you got to run into session. First, just a political note. I heard, and this is very revealing, that the political media in Charleston were told not to cover the Freedom Caucus.
That's what I understand. When we launched yesterday, we had put out, of course, a press release to over 400 different news media sources, and like 2 or 3 showed up. So, this always happens. The establishment, the cronyism and the control, they don't want to hear that they're actually, they don't like their control being challenged. And when you have a handful of lawmakers standing up and going, enough is enough, we're going to stand together, we will not bow down, we will not compromise, we cannot be silenced. That's the last thing they want in the news cycle, because they just hide behind the fact that they all wear the RT jacket. Doesn't mean they govern that way.
They will tell you who they fear. I noticed this in other states. The Republicans versus Freedom Caucus becomes the proxy R versus D fight that you see nationally to the media. They know what we know. They know the R's are really D's. And if you don't distinguish the jersey, you're not going to get anywhere. I want to start with the land use, because this is heartbreaking to me watching this. This is the new COVID. This is the new technocracy that we warned about, the surveillance state, taking away the land, farming, agriculture that we desperately need. We're losing farms for cloud-based. So what did Governor DeSantis say? So a 13-year-old could get corrupted from some chatbot slop. So we need to cover this. Your state is, you have HB 4012 with these high voltage lines, but also another bill to absolve the tech companies of all taxes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, last year we passed 2014. I did not vote for it because it did not have the protection for private property rights. Because keep in mind, our republic was founded on life, liberty, and private property, right? So I put in many pieces of legislation to force them to not dry up wells, to not build within 500 feet of a house or a school where you're killing everybody's property value. However, those haven't moved, but instead what we find is yet more cronyism and more government picking winners and losers and manipulating the free market by now trying to abolish taxes on data centers. I thought the idea was to bring data centers to West Virginia so that we would have the income to abolish the personal income tax, which I'm all in favor of. I put in a bill to abolish the personal income tax, the personal property tax. You shouldn't have to pay for property that you've already bought, you've paid for it. Why do you have to pay rent to government anymore? But right now, again, the speaker controls the process. So when the speaker controls the process, the bills that come up are the ones that the speaker wants to come up. And what's coming up? More cronyism, more picking winners and losers, and more leaving West Virginians behind.
So I want to get to the 800-pound gorilla in your state. Poverty, the vicious cycle of poverty, the vicious trap of welfare, government dependency, public sector unions, where it doesn't matter. It used to be in the old days, the D jersey, and then when the Republicans took over, it's a one-party Republican state, but they act the same, where they have one model. They're like, okay, we need to empower economic development. So anything that you put the moniker of job creation to, oh, you're desperate for jobs, right? What are you going to do? You need it. And then constantly the vicious cycle of government dependency. This has really been the albatross around a state like West Virginia. How do you break out of that cycle?
Well, first of all, I did put in legislation to abolish the Economic Development Department in West Virginia and get rid of that. But if you look at what they've done, they've taken taxpayer dollars like Reform Energy and given Bill Gates $300 million taxpayer dollars to come to our state to bring his woke company here. What in the world is going on? We don't even need to touch about the whole Epstein files and Bill Gates in the middle of it. But, we constantly are selling out our people. What we need to do is what the founders saw, and that is a free and fair market, government manipulation out of the market, and to reduce business taxes, reduce individual taxes, let the people achieve their dreams. People, they think that West Virginia is poor because it's not governed enough. I say it's poor because it's governed too much. Let the people live their lives. They only have one life on this planet. They have one chance to achieve their dreams. Get government out of the way. Put more money back into their pockets. I talk to constituents all the time who, as the utility rates are going up and as their property taxes are going up, they don't know if they'll be able to stay in their house past March. And yet we're giving hundreds of millions of dollars to Bill Gates. What is really going on here? We need to go back to representing the people and not these big business interests.
Yeah, it's funny. I looked at the bill. It's something like the threshold of job creation to be abolish all income, property tax, sales tax, 10 jobs, because they know, contrary to their talking points, those things don't create a lot, and they'll probably be H-1Bs or something, running those things as they create untenable noise. And this is what's so funny about their lies in West Virginia, is that you have the canary in the coal mine next door in Loudoun County, Prince William County, Virginia, where it's literally you have neighborhoods now fighting with each other. Not that they disagree, but that neighborhood A that's near the data center is like, we're done. We can't live here. It's so bad. They're selling out. So they want to rezone it to industrial land because no one else will buy it, so they can sell it. But then neighborhood B is like, but then we're the buffer. I mean, this is how pathetic it is. How do they look you guys in the eye and say, no, there's no problem in doing this?
Apparently their donors must be telling them to do so, because in the end, the last thing we want, and the thing that I will fight the hardest, is to keep West Virginia, otherwise known as West Virginia, from becoming Virginia. And we have to fight very hard to stop that, because if you look at what's happening in Virginia, not only do you have the data centers, they're talking about a personal income tax of 13%. They're running out all these draconian gun laws. They're pushing all this woke agenda in schools. Do we want that in West Virginia, or do we want to actually maintain our quality of life and our family values and the values that we grew up with? And this all has to do, when you look at everything goes back to monetary policy and economic policy, and that controls everything else. The last thing that we can have here is West Virginia and the Eastern Panhandle, and then the rest of the state become Loudoun County, Virginia. That's the last thing we can do. So, there are Quite a few of us now speaking up, fighting back against this. We had a big floor fight the other day. I put an amendment in on the bill to prohibit these transmission lines, like they're trying to run basically great big extension cords through West Virginia to power Virginia data centers. And to do so, they want to charge the ratepayers of West Virginia up to $1 billion, of which they get no benefit, and use eminent domain to take their private property rights. That is immoral. The eminent domain should never be used for private corporation profit, ever. So I have a bill in to stop that. In fact, I have a bill in to stop eminent domain altogether, because property rights are paramount. Okay, to be free, you have to be able to obtain property and keep it, right? That's one of the foundational principles of Western society. So we had the fight. We lost. We made them give a little bit, but we're not done yet. We're not done fighting yet, and we're going to continue to fight. Unfortunately, again, because leadership is controlling the legislative process for now, and for now is the key word or key phrase, we have to find bills we can slide amendments into to accomplish our task, because they will not let a single thing we try to do to the floor. I tried procedural motions last year. I discharged some bills, tried to drag them to the floor. I failed, but I got them on record. And we're going to continue to get roll call votes so that the people of West Virginia understands who stands with them and who stands with the crony capitalist and those that want to turn West Virginia into Virginia.
And it already is. Like, one other thing that I found heartbreaking is anything within eyeshot of Garrett County, not too far from where you're from, the part of the state, towards the Panhandle, you can't get a decent sunset in the mountains. Every single, it's like Deuteronomy. You have in all the high places, all the Baal, you have these dystopian looking windmills that don't even spin, half of them. Is there a way to tear down the idols?
Absolutely. I mean, Senator Rose and I are working on legislation, first of all, to ban all green new energy subsidies from government. Anybody that gets subsidies from the federal government, not building them here, sorry, you can go someplace else. Because our republic was built upon, controlling your own state. And so that's what we're attempting to do. But, these big gargantuan looking windmills that generate nothing are all over our state now. If you drive to Blackwater Falls, you drive anywhere in the state, yes, you see beautiful views. They're everywhere. It's insane. And we've let that happen. And it's a time to say enough is enough. I was just elected last year. I'm a freshman legislator, but we have a good core of hard-fighting conservatives that are going to try to reverse everything they've done to West Virginia to take advantage of the people for corporate profit.
No, that is so important. That's why I'm so excited about this. The other big thing is, last year, your state passed the worst bill of the entire legislative session in the entire country. It was in a red state, not a blue state. So you have this federal effort to bar states and localities from any zoning that would block a data center. Now, I want to make it very clear. They're making it like we're regulating, but it's like saying my son likes fixing cars. Okay, so let's say we want to set up a car repair shop on my residential street. So anyone who opposes that, they're for regulation? No, I'm the one unnaturally breaking the social compact and unnaturally rezoning something that doesn't fit. So they want to denude red states, and this is part of several things: carbon capture, wind and solar, data centers, and even Section 8 housing. There is a bipartisan bill. I don't think it's a mandate, but it's like they want to create HUD zoning guidelines like Obama did. And by the way, both parties are bought into this stuff. This is the biggest threat to red states. So they haven't passed it, but you guys at a state level denuded localities of all ability, so they could say, I want a data center here. It doesn't matter the nature of it. This is it. I met people on the ground there that were in tears over this. Is there a way you could build a movement to repeal that?
Absolutely. In fact, the rule package regarding data centers is moving through the legislature, and we can amend that. I'm waiting for the opportunity because, again, I was one of a handful of brave enough legislators to vote against that bill. Like, Laura Kimball is a good colleague of mine. She voted against that bill. And of course, whenever you vote against something like that, you get attacked, you're yelled at in the halls. Trust me, it's not fun actually fighting for West Virginia and putting West Virginians first when you get cussed out in the halls and everybody's screaming at you all the time. I had the most wonderful time at the state capitol, but that's okay. I'm here for a duty. I'm here to serve the Constitution and the people and to protect them from their government, which is trying to exploit them.
So I just want to move on a couple more issues before you're out of time. Got to go back to the floor. Illegal immigration. I mean, my gosh, in a state like West Virginia, public sentiment, probably one of the states that really is the most hawkish on that. In Florida, they did street level enforcement where they're actually making it that, like, you and I, if we commit a crime, we can't run away from the government. They'll find us. When I've had speeding tickets in other states, they will get you. Somehow we're told, I don't know what we can do. We can't possibly find every illegal. Well, no, you don't go, search and destroy. But if every time a cop runs into someone that's illegally driving, we find you're illegal, boom, that's it. So there, they actually have every county, not just 287G, which is only in the jails, but street level enforcement. They've gone down the list. In your state, I see like barely claw to have a half-baked e-verify law. You have some illegal immigration bills. Why are we having such a struggle getting them passed in West Virginia?
Well, again, because we have a lot of undocumented Democrats. For example, this is a hard story. In my district, there was a 32-year-old mother. Her name was Samantha Daly. She was killed by an illegal immigrant that had been captured twice by the federal government and let loose. And her body burned so bad on a couch, they could not identify her. So that's why I introduced legislation to make being an illegal immigrant also a state crime. Because too often before President Trump was reelected, you catch an illegal immigrant or the federal government, like I said, this gentleman was captured twice. Twice we could stop him. And Samantha Daly is dead because we did not. They would play catch and release, kind of like when you're a kid fishing for bluegills, you play catch and release. My bill say, no, the first time we catch you, we'll send you to the feds. If we catch you a second time, you're now incarcerated in West Virginia. When that term's up, then we'll send you to the feds, hoping to remove them completely from our society. Because without borders, you can never have a country. You can never have a country without borders. We need to, protect our borders. We need to protect West Virginians by removing these criminals.
No, and the pendulum federally swings back 50-50. Most likely, Democrats come back in. We need in red states a permanent structure, a permanent deterrent, a state crime that, they'll bring in another 10 million through the border, but at least that they'll know you don't want to come here. You'll go to California. That's the best we can do. But we cannot go through another term of this, because we will have that with Gavin Newsom, whatever Democrat they conjure up. This is why it's so important, again, to build in the primaries. I know you got to run. Where could people find out more? Do you have a Twitter or Facebook, Freedom Caucus?
Yes, there's a Freedom Caucus Twitter account. It's Freedom Caucus WV. I'm all over Facebook. My website is Anders4WV.com. I'm here at the Capitol. I return phone calls, unlike most state representatives, even for people screaming at them, because I serve the Constitution first and the people of my district. But watch West Virginia very closely. We're hoping something really great happens in the 2026 primaries. I know I'm going to be working very hard to make that happen, because the West Virginia people deserve to have their rights back to them, their land rights, their property rights, their economic liberty, their personal liberty. We need to make West Virginia a shining light for freedom as a beacon for other states, while building a big red brick wall to keep the blue locusts from moving here.
I mean, very well said. We need more God, gold, land, liberty. We don't need illegals. We don't need flock, wind, solar, data centers, and all that dystopian stuff. We have another half of the country that champions that. We certainly don't need this. God bless your endeavor, and we'll definitely be in touch. Good luck.
Thank you, Dan.
Delegate from West Virginia, Freedom Caucus chairman. I'm really, really excited about that because conservatives had no pulse there. They do say they have a little bit better Senate, so they're working with that. But folks, this is exactly what I mean. Everyone's focused on, this U.S. Senate seat, how many House seats here, there, this, that. Who the hell wants to talk about the West Virginia legislative primaries? But I'm here to tell you that matters exponentially more. The realm of outcomes between who we elect in the Indiana, West Virginia, Florida, Texas legislative primaries will be the difference between having zero constitutional sanctuaries when Democrats come in versus having robust sanctuaries. Whereas the value add of focusing on the federal primaries for what? Whether Democrats will win by this much or that much, and even if by some miracle Republicans would hold on, Trump and Republicans have already told us that they've done everything they want to do in 4 years. They don't want to do anything. They don't have the votes. It's too narrow. Well, whatever it is, they're not doing anything. So then it's all down to executive order, and that's fine, but it's not enduring. It'll be reversed. And frankly, most of it, the courts are screwing with. And I've been dying to get to this story with the courts. Just one other thing on primaries. Do you know, in South Carolina, the Freedom Caucus there is trying to finally close their primaries because they have primaries that are open to Democrats. And GOP leadership opposes it because they rely upon the Democrats to get them elected. Again, I want you to understand, it's not just that Republicans are underperforming what they could do or they're kind of like Democrats. They're worse than Democrats. If you had one day what happened in Virginia happen in every red state and they take over the state and try to do all that stuff, the people would rebel. See, in Virginia, we lost the demographics. The people would rebel and you throw them out and you could start anew. The problem is Republicans quietly enable much of that to happen with the data center stuff fully, but no one follows it because it's not Democrats doing it. We already won. There's nothing more to win because all there is to win is voting R over D in a general election, but that's not true. The value add in red state primaries is exponentially greater than focusing on a general election there, federally or elsewhere. But anyway, as it relates to where is this? As it relates to the courts, I've been dying to get to this story. So remember how I've been telling you that even when you win on appeal, once you accede to the notion that any utterance, any flatulence of a district judge or any judge is the word of God, as Abraham Lincoln mocked in the debate with Stephen Douglas over judicial supremacism. So then, even if you reverse it upon appeal, they'll just come back in another case and say, this case is different and we're doing what we want. We don't care. So this from Politico, judges may have found a way to bypass Fifth Circuit ruling upholding Trump's mass detention policy with illegal aliens. So the Fifth Circuit obviously upheld 130 years of precedent that, of course, you could detain them to effect the deportation because they always have the option of self-deporting. If you don't want the detention, then leave. We're not trying to hold you for a criminal prosecution. So anyway, 2 federal district court judges in Texas who are bound by the New Orleans-based Fifth Circuit ruling said the 2-1 decision left an opening for them to continue granting immigrants release on other grounds, primarily constitutional arguments against detaining people who have established roots in the U.S. without due process. So they're saying, okay, I understand that you Fifth Circuit judges, you ruled that statute allows Trump to do this. But you know what? We believe the statute is unconstitutional. Well, what do you mean? The higher appeals court, the Fifth Circuit, implicit in their ruling allowing Trump to to do that is that they believe that statute says this and that the statute is constitutional, which of course it is, because you don't have a constitutional right to invade, demand to stay, demand to be released while you try to litigate your way in. Like, you can't have it both ways. Of course, there's no due process with that. So they just come back for more. They're like, screw it. So I want you to think about this. We are told that the president and Congress could abide by the law, the Constitution, 150 years of case law, tradition, precedent, that a marriage is a marriage, a citizen is a citizen, a life is a life. But any district judge that could come anytime and says, no, we believe otherwise, that somehow they are bound by that there's no separation of powers, and that is completely, with finality, controlling over those other elected branches, by the way, when that judge is life tenured and not elected, precisely because he doesn't have the power. Yet, when a higher appellate judge overrules the court, we're told that that judge could completely defy it by finding some sort of legal fog and saying this case is different and it's not bound by that and I can do what I want. And then once he orders that, the other branches will have to follow that ruling rather than the appellate or Supreme Court ruling and their own judgment and the law and the Constitution and precedent. I'm sorry, but if the judges are able to engage in insurrection against the laws, what does it mean when we say you have to follow their insurrection? And if you don't, you're ignoring a court. No, they're the ones ignoring the laws and frankly, ignoring the courts too. So that's just a textbook example of everything that I'm talking about, why you can never comply your way out of judicial supremacism in this hope that somehow it will be reversed upon appeal. It doesn't matter. They'll keep coming back. They came back within hours of that Fifth Circuit ruling. But this is all part of it. If we're going to agree to judicial supremacism no matter what, and the Democrats' manipulation of it, we're not going to get involved in primaries. We're not going to push budget reconciliation. We're not going to push a talking filibuster. We're not going to push budget bills. So then what the hell are we doing? What is the point? Vote Republican. No. You need a different sort of Republican that only uses the party line for ballot access, but doesn't consider themselves part of the uniparty, to be elected in red states where the people could support broad majorities, but we don't have them because Republicans supplant them, and start rebuilding a parallel movement there. It's not perfect, but the state freedom caucuses are the only things I'm seeing that on some level are trying this. Some might believe it's not enough, but try finding a movement to do that, to do more. So I want to at least help where I can. But again, this is the last thing that my colleagues will focus on. They just don't care. But anyway, in the remaining time, I want to do a little bit of a free-for-all Friday, just a couple of rapid-fire stories that we haven't gotten a chance to focus on to close out the week. So anyway, our first story here in our lightning round is Politico published a list of judges who ruled on detention of illegals. 373 federal judges ruled against mass detention. Only 28 endorsed it, and even among Trump appointees, 44 were against and 20 were for. This is how broken the judiciary is. Something that the courts have said over no area of law do the political branches have more latitude to control than immigration, that there's no due process to remain in the country against the national will. You're free to go home. If you want to litigate your way in, then you have to remain detained. That has always been a part of it. So again, this is why you're not going to fix that. Think about how brilliant it was for the left. That if you want to do radical things, you have to get elected. And by the way, stand for re-election after having done those. They figured we'll just take over the legal profession, sell everyone this lie that the judiciary, which doesn't stand for election, has more power than every other branch combined. and determines with finality everything they do, their own branch, the other branches. It's a brilliant oligarch. We can't go on like this. And moreover, it just also, as it relates to immigration, I mean, this is what I will just say one thing. From a legal perspective, the courts are wrong, but just from a prudence perspective, we shouldn't be building these mass detention facilities. It's not about detaining. I understand that to a certain extent it's logistical. We should be using ships, not planes, and you just get them straight there and get them out. Instead, they're building this sort of grift, detention complex, which is nothing to do with right or left. Is like everything in this administration. It's a bunch of grift. One other point on immigration, the FMCSA, they are now giving a 5-year timeline for truckers to adjust their hiring strategies to deal with the loophole for a non-domiciled CDLs. Rather than banning them right away, they're giving a 5-year runway, which will be well into the next Democrat presidency who will cancel it. So it looks like at the federal level, we're not dealing with the foreign truck driving problem. It's a utter travesty, and it's truly a shame. And this is why states need to pick up the slack. States need to ban CDLs of non-citizens. States need to also criminalize with 5-10 years prison time for any illegal alien caught driving a truck in the state, because clearly the feds are doing nothing about this. Let's move on to elections. So there's an interesting article. The New York Times reports that Trump has prolific fundraising and they're crushing Democrats. Republican groups had a combined $320 million compared to roughly $137 million for the Democrats. So more than 2-to-1 financial advantage. Now, a couple things here. First of all, why does the GOP have so much money? I'd love to think that, oh, this is great, people are coming our way. No. It's because they sold out to big tech and special interests. So, it comes at a huge cost. So number one, that's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. Number two is you won't even get the benefits of it, because when the economy is this bad and you have no accomplishments and no narrative, money can't buy you love. Okay. That's only if it's a level playing field. But when you're the incumbent with so much baggage and such a bad economy, the bottom line is, Democrats will crush it no matter what. So if they're trying to put their hopes in somehow winning because of their stupid cash advantage, I'm sorry, but that's not going to go anywhere. And especially when Trump endorses people like Salazar and a bunch of rhinos like Corey Mills, who has so much baggage. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. I could lie to you, but I may as well tell the truth. You only live one life. I gotta say, I'm just heartbroken. We have our Texas state leader, our activist, longtime listener, Rudy, just asking for prayers. His wife was just out of nowhere diagnosed with glioblastoma. It's just devastating. He's trying to work, to find the best doctors and, what sort of alternative treatments that are, low risk to try. But there are so many people dying young and diagnosed with incurable cancers, and everyone, I'm sure you're like me, you have so many people in your life, about that. And that in itself is just such a vexing issue. But my main point for now is, aside for, the need to pray for Rudy's wife and, God could do anything recovery, just, it's not worth the grift. This world is but a blip on the map for relative to next world. It's not worth it. Oh, I can't speak the truth because Mr. Tom, but come on. It's not worth it. I don't understand what we're doing here. The last thing we can do, like, we're going to get crushed in Georgia, we're going to get crushed in Arizona. So the last thing we can do is win in states like West Virginia. That's what we should focus on. Anyway, and speaking of big tech, so Microsoft and Google are now paying influencers between $400,000 and $600,000 for a long-term partnership to promote AI tools on social media. Now, if this is the juggernaut, the way of the future, it's going to take everything away, it's going to do everything. Well, then it's greater than any technology that we didn't need to pay influencers to gaslight people into using. I don't understand. Why do you need to pay people to tell people, you better use those chatbots? It's pathetic. If their product is such a natural evolution of innovation, then why would we need to cajole people into using it? So that is an utter fraud. And I'll tell you what's happening. They're gaslighting investment, gaslighting the markets, gaslighting media reports on it to continue the unproductive, unsustainable debt. It's all a way of ensconcing it into the fabric of our economy and body politic as too big to fail. That's what they're trying to do. Because if they were everything they claim to be, and they're saying I'm wrong and I'm a backwards guy trying to work against technology, well, it's going to work. I don't remember in the digital revolution with the iPhones. I don't remember we having to have paid influencers yell at people and shame people into using the product. You know, typically the only barrier with technology was people couldn't afford it when it came out. So, maybe they wanted it, they couldn't afford it. Here, the irony is, at least for now, this stuff is being offered for free. And you still have to cajole people into it. So that's kind of pathetic. And the one other story on that front, I referenced it when I was talking to Chris about Virginia and West Virginia. This is from Politico. I'm just going to read to you the scope of what these vermin have done to Prince William County. It's the fastest growing data center market in the country, on target to outpace Loudoun, which is to the west. The 80-foot tall buildings tower over townhomes and span multiple football fields each. The 33 completed data centers here cover 6.8 million square feet. Once the rest of the approved data centers are built, they will cover 9.8 million square feet. Some of those data centers are right next door across the street from elementary schools, retirement communities, after county officials approved applications that rezoned residential parcels as industrial. Yeah, that's real natural. That's a real free market. This is what I mean, folks. That's what they have planned for you. We all understand we have certain vital, critical infrastructure that's not too pretty or too pleasant. And we have a big country, and, inevitably got to put it somewhere. But it's this much in so many locations for such a crappy product that doesn't give, but in fact takes and shitifies our lives, addicts people to slop. And that's why they need to sell it. By the way, it's fascinating. I now have enough of a control group study on this. Every single clip I put out on YouTube that deals with data centers, it will literally be frozen at 0, 3, 5 views. Now, I don't run the Conservative Review Facebook account because it's from the old website, which wasn't just my show. But when it's put out when the Blaze puts it out, and the Blaze owns it, it does have over 1 million followers. Technically, now I know we've moved to the algorithms and not followers, which is kind of my point here. But no matter what, it can't have no views. So it's completely zapped, completely frozen. They have that all worked out. And that's why I need you guys to subscribe directly to the show on YouTube, Horowitz Show. Obviously, iTunes gives us a 5-star rating. And of course, our Substack, Liberating Truths. Thank you so much for listening, for a terrific, productive week. We covered such a diverse array of topics, and I want to continue that into the coming new week. Let me know what you feel is a pressing issue in your state. Email me, danielhorowitz@startmail.com. Till Monday, have a terrific, godly weekend. We'll see you back here, same time, same place, Micah 6-8.